Wesley here, and I have a quick question for you. Have you ever heard the cue, tuck your tailbone in a yoga class? Right? Probably you have. I hear it all the time. It's not necessarily a bad cue, but often, as we'll see, it's used at the wrong time and it can create a whole world of tension. So let's see if we can have an experience of this together. You can take your feet wide, turn your toes out, and we're going to come into horse pose. Let's try on some of the cues that I've heard a lot of, and maybe you have too, in yoga class. We'll bend the knees, right, lower down, tuck the tail, and just notice when you do that, what did you feel? Okay, these are some more that I hear. Lift the lower belly, lengthen your spine, press your knees back. Now just notice how that feels. Notice if you're able to breathe, and if so, where are you feeling breath, how your knees feel. I don't know about you, I feel like I'm ready to come out of that. That felt like a lot of tension and strain on my knees. I felt like I couldn't breathe, right? So let's take a look at what's actually happening with the tailbone when we come into hip flexion in something like a horse pose. So first off, where is the tailbone? Right, I have here a pelvis. This is from the back in an upright position. Here is the tailbone, the coccyx, which is interesting because you might be thinking of this as the tail, depending on where that cue has you go, right? But this is the coccyx, and it's connected to muscles that go from the coccyx all the way around to the pubic bones in the pelvic floor. I'm going to show you this from the bottom. Right, now you're looking at this from the upside down. My top hand is the tailbone. My bottom hand is touching the two pubic bones. We have muscles that go between these 2 points. When I come into lower limb flexion, this area is actually going to lengthen. It's going to act like a trampoline that's stretching out to help absorb force. We call this eccentric contraction. If I were to tuck the tailbone, I would be shortening this muscle, right? I'd be shortening the distance, which creates a whole slew of issues, tension, right? We're not able to breathe. So instead, we can imagine the lengthening between these 2 points as we lower to horse. So now we have some of this imagery, right? Can you imagine where your tailbone is? You might even take your hand there. You might take your hand or your mind to the front of the pelvis, into the pubic bones. And now as you come into horse pose, can you sense that there's actually a lengthening between those 2 points, pubic bones and tailbone? In fact, we're actually lengthening the musculature in between. And as you come up, you don't need to engage or clench or do anything. Can you sense that the muscles between tail and pubic bone shorten? Let's have that experience. So as you come into horse, the muscles lengthen between tail and pubic bone. And as you come up, they shorten. We can add to this some imagery in terms of that trampoline. So can you imagine, just like when you land on a trampoline, the fabric stretches. Can you imagine that stretch absorbing force? And then a slow rebound, shortening to bring you back up. Or if you have like a TheraBand, can you imagine the stretch of the TheraBand between pubic bone tail and then the shortening as you come back up? And notice that we've just taken a very important function of your anatomy and we've made it into a usable experience, right? That hopefully you feel like, yeah, that actually spreads out the effort and force. I'm able to breathe. I feel like I could be here a lot longer than before when I was doing all the things, right? Now I want to be clear, what I didn't do is just say the opposite thing, right? So I didn't have you just take your tailbone back. We're feeling the dynamic response through the pelvic floor muscles as you lower into horse and as you lift. Right? Very cool. Just another way Franklin Method helps us with yoga, connecting you
to you.
Thanks so much for trying out this video. I hope it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for you and your yoga practice. And if you're interested in learning more, we are going to dive deep into the mechanics of the pelvis, both in terms of joints, muscles, fascia, organs, and how we can use those ideas in terms of cueing and leading our own yoga classes, right? Improving the way that we're cueing to our students as well as in our own yoga practice. So join us for our 10-day training coming up. There'll be information in the link below.